Hello and welcome to this week's video. This week is going to be a little different than most. Usually I have a guest here and I'm interviewing somebody on this series, but it's been 50 videos now that I've been doing this series and I have interviewed some genius people. But I know that it can be a lot to go back and rewatch some of these longer form videos. So I thought that to celebrate the 50th video, we would do a little recap of all of the videos I've done so far. So this is going to be a two-part series, and in each video, I'm going to give you 25 of the gold nuggets that each of my interviewees have shared. I hope you like it, and let's jump right in.
Even if someone's not approaching you for what you want to do what you're interested in doing and keep putting it out there, because eventually someone's going to see it and then you'll get to do the work you actually want to do.
If I have room, and it's all about what you have room for. If you don't have room to do a flourish, don't force the flourish. Just do a very, very simple descending loop and don't put a flourish on it at all. You still want everything to look nice and neat and concise. Okay.
We have the letter E. So the central bar of the E, if we were just wanting everything to be aligned, we'd put it up against there, like that. But the problem is that when you fill it in, your eye looks at it, it looks like this is a bit of an extreme case, it looks like the E is sticking out too far. And that's just how our eyes view that sort of collection of three bars together. A bit like those optical illusion tricks that you sometimes see. And so what you have to do is just bring that back a bit lower than, it only has to be a fraction, but away from the top. So the top goes to a certain place, lines up with there, and the middle one goes back slightly.
If you really go slow and you're intentional, you can still, create the same kind of, let's say, copper plate in this instance with a magic marker. You can do even like the black letter if you want, all because you still have the broad edge and the thin tip at your disposal. So it just depends on what your style is.
And I talk about this all the time. Becca's going to laugh at me. It's called Profit First. And I send this book to everyone I know. I love it. So it's a book and it's a really easy read. Like if you're thinking there's no way I want to sit down and read a book about business finances, it's a super, super easy read. And the basics of it, even if you never pick it up, is how I actually organize my finances to make sure I'm covering taxes, make sure I'm covering all my expenses and paying myself a regular salary, even with a side hustle with inconsistent income.
But I think it's smart when you're specific, because if you see a thing on Instagram that says like live, love, laugh, like you might like it and you might be like, that's nice, but you don't feel like it was made for you. You don't feel like it's speaking to you. When you choose a kind of niche interest, yeah, maybe not everyone's going to understand it or love it, but the people who do see it are going to be like blown away. They're going to be like, I cannot believe there's someone else out there who knows what that thing is, or who likes this too. Like this is crazy. And that's the kind of fan base you want to cultivate. I think
a lot of people have this idea that like they need to register it or whatever. The way that you create a copyright is simply by creating, and that's super basic, super easy. You are simply on your iPad or pen to paper, writing something, drawing something, lettering something. So that is where the copyright is created for the first time.
So looking just at those two strokes, the first thing you can change, which we kind of just talked about, was the proportions. So you can change the width. You can make them either really narrow or really wide. So with the compound curve, if we made it really narrow versus if we made it really wide. And then same with the ascending stem loop. So Jillian's going to be taking notes as I'm talking. We can make the ascending stem loop really narrow or really wide.
So copy and learn, and I really mean it just in the sense of copy and learn. Don't copy anything and post it as your own. Don't copy it and just tweak it a little bit and then post it as your own. Usually try to copy things and keep it like for yourself. It's just for learning's sake. And what I'll do is really I'll take these letters here and I'll copy them. And maybe I have my other sketchbook with me, and I'm only going to show this to you guys. So here, all these pieces here, these are all picked up by things that I've seen. So
I tend to keep them in this kind of space. So if I was going to do, I would do these three together, and then I would do something like that. Like those are kind of the combinations that I tend to do if I'm going to do a smaller palette than just the whole rainbow.
So it's sort of like temperatures, if you look at it. It's like the
Probably,
hot ones
yeah.
and then the medium ones and the cool ones.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
I might do that. That would be more of the purples and blues, and possibly put the pinks down here as well. But it would be really unlikely that I would do oranges and greens in a piece, or even orange and blue together.
Once you're happy with your exposure, there's a little lock and you can lock it in place, and it's also now locked the focus in place. And iPhone does have that as well. So you would just press and hold with iPhone, and then the yellow square would get bigger, and you'll see that it says AFAE lock right on there. And that means it's locked, so wherever I turn and move, it has locked the exposure and the focus.
It's like, if you have something in your head, just put it on the paper. You know, like
And with shading, it's really important that all of your shading lines are connected to the center. So if we take this petal right here, we want to start from the center and work our way up. But for like these lines, we don't want to go straight down here. We want to curve them back to the center. Hopefully y'all can see that.
Yep.
So as I mentioned, #1 trade secret, sharpening your chalk. So I am going to start with a sharp chalk point. And again, it fits right into this sharpener. You'll also want to have on hand something to catch your dust, because as you're drawing, you're going to notice that this point wears down very, very quickly. But we use the sharp point to control, just to control our lettering. So when it's sharp, we're going to have much more control. It's going to wear down. So you'll find yourself going back and forth to sharpening and drawing, sharpening. And I literally, this is really fancy, guys. I use just a paper plate, and I always have my paper plate with me, and I'm resharpening. So when you see me turning to resharpen, it's just catching the dust on there.
Or you do something between 10 and 11. So right when the market opens, we're going to be offering this discount, you know, so it's driving people in early. You get that little boost at the beginning. There's buzz around your table, you know, and it starts the day off really great.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
And people look for you as soon as they come in, right? If you've promoted, I've seen some just blow product out because they've promoted it so well before, and they have that established following that wants to come see them. And there's people lined up at the door outside the market ready to beeline for that table.
What things on here do I think are inspirational, or what's drawing my eye, and how can I integrate that into what I do? And that's also then the difference between like inspiration and copying. You know, if it's that, well, she did, you know, a double shadow here, and then the second shadow had like a second line coming off of it. That's something that I'm like, oh, well, that technique really makes those letters pop. I could try that with my own lettering, but not copying the piece. So it's almost like empowering, looking at these amazing artists who are doing something really neat. And like, what is it that actually draws our eye to that? And then how can we integrate that into what we're doing?
I've sort of trained myself with those bigger, juicier brush pens to hold my pen higher up instead of all the way down here like I normally do. If you hold it up here and you have your pen turned, see how far my hand is from my baseline. And it takes some getting used to, of course, because it's a whole different way of writing your pen. But if there's anything that lefties are, it is versatile and adaptable.
I can't put a number to it. And so I hate saying I just practiced when I could, but literally I practiced when I could. And so whether you have 5 minutes a day or you do have an hour, what I usually tell folks learning is that it's more about being intentional and doing the right practice. I hope that's helpful, because I know you're kind of looking for a number, like, do I need to practice for 15 minutes? Well, if you practice the same stroke for 15 minutes and you felt like from that beginning to the end, you even just made one light bulb moment, that's a great practice. You could practice for an hour and not do any, and be making these mistakes that we talked about and not get anywhere and be kind of in the same area you were to begin with.
I like having hands in the photo. I love it when people include that, because any kind of live, like even if it's just a plant, even if it's like a human touch of any kind, it creates a little bit more of a connection, I think, between people. There's some controversy about the feet thing. Some people will show feet in the photo and some people are really freaked out by feet. I can't imagine why you would want to put feet in a stationary photo, but just don't. Just steer away from it just in case. But yeah, I like it when there's a hand in it, because it does create a little bit more of a connection with people who are kind of scrolling by. It just makes it a little bit more personal.
I feel like this is so cliche to say, but write what you know. So blogging is so much work. I don't think people realize how much goes into one blog post. You have to write the post, take the photos, edit the photos. If you have a video, you have to publish it and promote it via all different social media and Pinterest. One post can easily take me 8 to 10 hours. So write what you're passionate about, or blogging will burn you out. So if I wasn't doing what I love, I would have quit years ago. I still have days sometimes where like it's too much, but then I take a few days off and I get bored.
And then another funny little gesture that you might like to try is to just erase it like this. So you can just write a few things, and then you want to get rid of the whole lot. So now this would now take 3 tabs to get rid of everything. So I'm going to bring it back. This doesn't react so nicely. But now you want to get rid of everything at once. You can just scribble and then everything goes away. That's to create a layer, which is kind of cool.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
but I do want to just stress that you just want to get going. A lot of people, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I'll admit that in the past, I used to have to feel like I had all my ducks in a row before I got started. And I realized I often never got started because I never had all the things worked out perfectly. And so what I suggest is just jumping in and trying it, because you can improve things as you go, and just letting go of that perfection, because you're never going to get things perfect. There's always going to be something you can improve, but there's time. You know, like if you looked at my original listings, the photos were crap, the descriptions were crap. I totally underpriced myself. I didn't know what I was doing in shipping, and so my packaging didn't look the best. But I still made sales, and it got me going, and I learned as I went. So do not feel like you can't get started just because you don't have all these things figured out. You can definitely learn as you go, for sure.
With that, what I wanted to show, the last part, is playing with different ways to mix things up. So I used to love this, especially as a kid. I would always write, if you guys can see, drawing little bubbles and dots at the end. So you can either do them closed up or maybe they're open. Another fun way is if you just write the word, right? So she's going to write funny, and maybe she writes it and adds little dots around them. Or if it's a girl, maybe you draw little hearts around it, or sorry, at the ends of it. So these are fun ways that if you have one word, just to kind of make it pop, make it really personal and really fun.
Once you know how many tables you have, you're going to measure the surface area of whatever you're using. Calculate your math to figure out how much space you have per guest. I like to work either at a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch. So if you're having a client who's supplying a piece, you'll get used to the measurements, and you'll be able to tell by looking at it if their guest count will fit. But in the off chance it doesn't, get the measurements and then just do some quick math and sketch it out, just because you never want to run out of space halfway through.
So Jesi, when you say 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch, that's per guest?
Yes.
Okay.
Per line. So sometimes you'll
Per
have
line.
people who will do like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and family. You just need it just per line.
Okay.
This is like a perfect example where I added like way too much water. Do you see like the water running a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then this is a case where if you add way too much water, it's okay. Just let it sit for like a couple of minutes, like maybe like 1 or 2 minutes, and it should become a little more creamier. But I mean, we all have our own preferences too, because if I were to use this directly, it would still work just as fine.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing all of these little snippets from all of my past interviewees as much as I actually enjoyed going through all of these videos and rewatching them. And stay tuned for next week where I bring up part 2 of this series.